we're also catching announcement for another Lord of the Rings movie.
Why are we going back to Gollum? Have we not done enough Gollum? There's so much other stuff in the Lord of the Rings world. Do we have to go back to Gollum?
There's like this whole big story around Gollum that's in the books, but not told on cinema at all.
Do you think Gollum is the Boba Fett of the Lord of the Rings universe?
Yes. To anybody interested, go watch the Hobbit movies and watch them as if Bilbo's
telling this exaggerated tale.
Pretend while you're watching that Bilbo is telling this and he's exaggerating.
Right?
Back then you'll enjoy it.
Welcome back to the Wacky Wonderful Wiseworks podcast. All you guys, gals, geeks, and goofballs, we're recording. We freaking are excited to be here.
Wow.
We are, man. What do you want me to say to open up? I wanted to ask you guys, what's your first thoughts? You haven't seen it yet. You said you're going to see it. What is your brightest and most hopes for Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes?
I want to be enchanted. I want it to make me feel that sense of wonder that the Rise of the Planet of the Apes did, and and I want there to be some emotional payoff.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, I usually don't look for the big spectacle for movies these days because the big spectacle are usually just not that enjoyable except for the big visuals. That's all they are. But I'm okay with it for this because this is like animated apes and they look cool and the guy's got a freaking falcon on his arm.
Mm-hmm.
And
what blows my mind is you're way more excited for this than you were for Dune 2.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense to me.
I think this has a little bit more establishing content.
Yeah.
Well, there's
Josh, like, because there's all the Planet of the Apes movies, and
yes, and I've seen all of them. I've even seen the original ones with Charleston. Yeah, and like the 5 original or 6 original, however many there is. I don't remember at the moment. I enjoyed Dune, but we talked about it so much that I got, by the time I was actually watching it, I'm like, I've seen this movie 5 times over again.
Sure,
really,
yeah. Well, okay, so
we haven't talked about Kingdom as much, so the allure is still there.
What do you guys think?
Using that word right?
Well, yeah,
I think so, yeah.
Got it.
The allure is still there. Yeah.
So, Joshua, what do you think about your stamina when we get to,
I'm pretty good. I could probably run like a mile and without.
When we get to the Rings of Power season 2, and we're talking about it quite a lot, and we're not enjoying it, how's your stamina gonna be?
Oh, I remember last season it was
not very high.
Yeah.
Yeah, we faded out towards the end because it was like you sit down to watch like an hour-long episode, and by the end of it, you're like,
there's been spurts here and there where, coming to podcast, I'm like, let's get this podcast over with. Sometimes you don't want that because it's not as enjoyable for the audience, but sometimes it happens.
Look, I think it's more the topic of conversation. Sometimes certain shows or movies just make you feel icky, but we got to talk about it because we got to course correct in culture. And if you're putting out stuff online and you're sharing your authentic opinion, it's a part of the conversation to course correct, right? And if you don't talk about the stuff that's bad, which is quite a bit, you're not adding to the conversation. In fact, you could be doing damage by avoiding it, or like if you see something, say something. That's the point.
My perspective going into Rings of Power 2 is instead because like last time I was exhausted with it, and this time I want to go in and be legitimately critical and of like sitting down, watching the show, and being like, okay, let's break it down. Let's look at it from these angles, and let's
did you finish it,
actually.
Wyatt?
I watched like most of the last episode.
I think I remember when we were in Virginia, you gave up a little bit. I remember watching it on the phone, and you had given up.
I watched the whole thing, and man, it does not end any better than it starts.
Yeah,
at all.
And so, yeah, I got burnt out on it, and I got burnt out on talking about it. And this time, I want to go into it with the idea of using it to create some content of like let's let's get some views from it. Let's make it.
Let's let our voices be heard, right?
Yeah, and
if we're not creating content, we're not being heard.
And be critical where criticism is due, and give the show whatever props it deserves wherever that's due as well. And
I think in
the first season it was few and far between.
Well, the first season, the only props I gave it was animation was really good.
Animation was
well, not animation of monsters, but animation of landscapes is really good.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit too much saturation in the image. You need to make it a little bit more grungy to feel like real life, but it was good animation, interesting style choices. However, everything else fell flat. Everything. They spent all their money on freaking making it look pretty, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
But so the good thing is we're going to have probably an awesome House of the Dragon that comes out this summer, right before we have to dive into Rings of Power. So we'll be able to get a really good taste for some quality television or streaming vision.
I hate to bring this up because I genuinely don't remember if we talked about this on the live on Monday, but it's sad with the passing of the gentleman who played Theoden.
You don't remember if we talked about this on Monday?
Did we talk about that? We talk about so much.
How do you not remember? You tried to give a speech and fell on your face.
I do remember that actually. Now that you say that,
no, now that you mentioned it, yeah.
You blocked it out. Too traumatizing on the interwebs.
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, that is sad. But and I think somebody from Game of Thrones who played in Game of Thrones passed away too.
Really?
People just passing left and right.
People getting old, man.
Yeah.
What I'm surprised. Look, I don't want to jinx it, man. I really don't want to jinx it. I don't believe in jinxing it. I am surprised that we still got Sir Ian McKellen, relatively kicking. I haven't heard anything from him recently, but haven't got word that he's passed, and I know he's a bit older.
Yeah.
Quite older.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what do you guys think? You think when Peter Jackson dies, there's going to be an Steve Irwin style funeral? You think there's going to be anything like that?
Maybe
they have to have it in a football stadium. Did they have Steve Irwin's
probably not
in a football stadium?
I don't remember. I was really young when that happened.
We'll definitely see an absurd, like a bunch of people watching the movie.
Oh yeah, but like, so I get this question can wait till later.
You don't want to bring it up now?
No. I'll wait.
All right. So to jump into staying on the topic of Lord of the Rings a little bit, we have some fun news, okay? Around a new... So we got word that Warner Brothers is going to be making more Lord of the Rings films, right? They're coming out with the animated War of the Rohirrim later this year. But we're also catching an announcement for another Lord of the Rings live action movie.
Oh boy.
Believe it's live action. I haven't got word that it's not. If it's not live action, then it looks like it'll just be voice work. But I'm pretty sure they're giving the vibes that it's going to be live action. It's going to be. Oops, I forgot to move to this screen. The Hunt for Gollum. All right, so there's going to be a show or a movie that Warner Brothers is putting out, and apparently Peter Jackson's producing this puppy. All right,
Okay.
Well, producing or directing? Because if
Producing.
producing, okay,
Andy Serkis is going to be directing.
Yeah.
That's
Which-
exciting.
But all right, look, I'm not gonna slam Andy Serkis at all, but his recent directing films have not been the greatest. We're talking about Venom, Carnage, right?
Yeah.
Let There Be
Wow.
Carnage. That was his last directed film, I believe. But we apparently have the original Lord of the Rings masterminds, Peter Jackson, Fran Walsh, and Philippa
Philippa?
Boyens, going to be returning to produce this film together, and that's pretty exciting. Warner Brothers is obviously, they have the movie rights to the Lord of the Rings stories, the books, and so War of the Rohirrim is coming out through Warner Brothers.
I'm glad that they're saying like these people are going to be involved. They're going to be like heavily involved in the making of this and everything. The issue I have is, why are we going back to Gollum? Have
'Cause
we
he's a
not
beloved character.
done enough Gollum? There's so much other stuff in
It's like
the Lord of the Rings world. Do we have to go back to Gollum?
Well, there's
It's
a lot
like
of
the-
untold story of Gollum's
I think we got
history.
it.
Now,
I think we told it.
there's quite a bit that
There's
is
a
in the
lot.
books that is not told in the
Yeah.
But I
movies.
don't know why we have to see that.
Obviously, we're not talking about, so it's the hunt for Gollum. So I remember reading in the books, and I can't remember, I think it's in the prelude to one of the 3 books, right?
Mhm.
Yep.
Where it talks about Gollum interacting with Gandalf, Aragorn, different people, I think.
Yeah, because Aragorn actually captures him
Yes,
at one
yeah.
point.
And there's like this whole big story around Gollum that's in the books, but not told on cinema at all. And so
Mhm.
you can weave the interesting tale of Gollum into the Ring story, or at least like a true prequel to Sauron and the Ring, right?
Mhm.
And not the Rings of Power nonsense, but actually like a true story that focuses around whatever this hunt for Gollum is. And I
Yeah.
think that's a really interesting take. I'm excited to see what they could pull out of this.
Do you think Gollum is the Boba Fett of the Lord of the Rings universe?
Yes.
You know, the character that's not, it's in there, but not that important,
Well-
and then becomes a beloved character, so they have to make so much stuff about it. I don't want it
Yes.
to end with, what is the show? The Book of Boba, where he's in it for like a couple episodes, and then it's about Mandalorian.
Yeah, I no, I seriously think it's like it's weird that we're just going back to Gollum, when
I don't think it's
you
that
could
weird.
be-
Look,
Okay, who would you be telling a story about then, Wyatt?
like
Ooh,
Aragorn.
Ooh,
Right?
Aragorn.
the thing is, they
Aragorn.
can.
As soon as I asked that question, I was like,
You're like
Aragorn.
Aragorn. Yeah,
Aragorn. Yeah.
there's 80 years that we could be telling about Aragorn's story and the things that he's been through.
Prequel or pre or post Ring?
Pre,
Well,
obviously,
pre.
leading up
But
to,
we-
yeah.
Okay, but we could tell a little bit post Ring, and we could also tell what would be a fun story is Legolas and Gimli post Ring.
Post Ring.
That would also
yeah.
be fun.
I feel like there's lots of stuff.
Yeah, and the good
In
thing
this
is Warner
world.
Brothers can dive into it, but this is kicking off, outside of the main story of The Hobbit, outside of the main story of Frodo Baggins and the Ring, right? What is how do you build around that? They have a lot of source material from the books. So what do you kick it off with? Well,
Mhm.
there's a lot of really good story about the Ring and about these main characters centered around Gollum, right? And
Mm.
so the good thing about Gollum is that it brings back Andy Serkis, a beloved character, not only a beloved character of Gollum, but a beloved man who played the character.
Mhm.
Did it right, and it doesn't matter how you feel about the Hobbits. You got to admit, Gollum's cave in the Hobbit was super cool. It was done
yeah.
super well.
Yeah, it's
Is-
very good. But again, it's like coming back to a character whose story I feel like was told pretty well.
You got to you
And
got to launch these
but
new movies from somewhere.
it's mystery, man.
Do you-
It's the mystery of the character
yes.
that we
Yes.
don't see that makes him tragic. It's like there's a lot that he's been through and a lot of stuff, and yet still in the end he makes his choice, right?
Mhm.
So there's nothing that they can show us that will change what happens in the end. And um I don't know. It's like
You
do we
saying there's not new story there?
I'm not saying there's
No,
not
there's
new story.
definitely a
I'm
new
saying they
story.
don't need to be just pulling back the curtain even more on this character. It's like it's
But
not gonna make
that's Hollywood these days. Would
yeah.
you consider Gollum a I don't know if this falls in the line, but a MacGuffin?
No. He's
No.
he's a character. He's not a thing.
Yeah, he's not really a MacGuffin. But
Yeah, but he progresses the story in a lot of ways.
The ring will be the MacGuffin
yeah,
of
the
the
ring's
story.
definitely the MacGuffin. But in this story, Gollum would be the MacGuffin because it's like finding him,
Yeah.
capturing him, getting information from him.
Him
Yeah,
escaping.
him escaping. It just
So we have how many years was he in the cave up till he goes into the cave when the ring was forgotten and all that stuff?
So
How many
I
years was
could
that?
I could be wrong, and I'm not. So before he goes to the cave, that's Smeagol time. I don't think
Yes,
that's what we're
Smeagol
telling.
leading into Gollum, leading into
So
him being in the cave.
this has to be focused
With the ring.
around. I'm pretty sure the timeline of he loses the ring with Bilbo. All right,
yeah, it's like the
and
6
then
years.
yeah. So, but it's not even that. So when Gandalf leaves the Shire, okay,
Yeah.
when he gives the ring to Frodo and Bilbo leaves, all right?
Mhm.
Gandalf leaves the Shire, tries
that
to
was
figure
20.
out what's happening with it, what's going on with the ring. He encounters a lot of different information. He goes to Saruman. Gollum's left the cave and Gollum is on the hunt for the ring, all right?
Yeah.
For 20 years.
He also gets captured, but yeah, it's a long time. The movies don't make it feel that way, but it's a long time between when he gives the ring to Frodo, leaves, and then comes back, and Frodo and Sam start their journey. Like that is a long period of time, and I'm pretty sure that's where a lot of Gollum's story takes place. That's outside of the cave. That's going to have to be where we focus on here. Am I correct?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's because Gollum leaves the cave and there's a lot that happens in between there. He gets captured by orcs. They torture him. That's how they find out the location of the ring with Baggins.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
there's so much story that is summarized in the movie there, so many years that you can dive into here. And I think that's interesting because it dives into an extra point, kind of like how Rogue One, they took a little comment in the original movie, all right?
Mhm.
And they told a whole story around how they got the information that is going to be able to disable and destroy the Death Star. Like
Right.
those people that got that information to them and died in order to get that information. It's the same concept, sort of, except there's source material for this, where they take a little section of time that in the movies feels like an insignificant amount of time or an insignificant part of the story where it just focuses on Gandalf trying to come up with information and figure out what's going on, figure out what happened to the ring. Is this possibly the ring that he's, that Saruman's ring? But there's so much there that you can elaborate into and really enrich the story of Lord of the Rings. But in order to do this, that has to be, for sure, Aragorn. So Sir Ian McKellen, as well as I'm blanking on Aragorn's actor's name. What's his name?
Viggo
Viggo
Mortensen.
Viggo Mortensen. For sure, they have to come back, right?
I don't know.
They play Gandalf, especially plays a big
They're
role in
old.
Gollum's
They're both
story.
old.
They're old.
That would be such a bummer if they
Viggo's-
recast.
But okay, so my whole thing with this is like it sort of feels like what Star Wars did with The Mandalorian. It's like
Yeah.
here's a character people recognize. It's not Boba Fett, but it's a Mandalorian, and we're gonna make a story around it. It's like
Yeah.
we want to get people back into Lord of the Rings. How do we do that? Well, we take one of the most iconic characters and make a story about that one.
I can't disagree with you. They're definitely doing that, but you have to start somewhere. And we're gonna see how much success War of the Rohirrim has.
Mhm.
But in my opinion, War of the Rohirrim is not going to be a knock it out of the park success.
No, well,
financially,
not because
right?
not because it's an animated thing.
No, it's because we're talking about a people group in Middle Earth, right? During a specific period of time that a lot of people that aren't super big Lord of the Rings fans know about because it doesn't play into the films too much.
That's the issue again is, here we're catering to everybody knows who Gollum is.
Yeah, it's
The
you have to start
audience the
somewhere.
audience is built in.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Financially, it's a good business decision.
And that's the issue. Is like everybody knows who Gollum is, so we can make a show about him and everybody will be interested. There's so much more to Middle Earth than just these few characters that we experienced, and it was the issue that Rings of Power had, was they kept member burying the movies, and it's like we get it, we know what you're pointing at, we know what's going on, we don't need to see the same stuff, tell new stories.
But can't we have? But if so, yes. So Warner Brothers and the executives there are like, we want to tell more of the Lord of the Rings. We want it to be for a big audience, right? And then you give it to the creative minds of the originals and the ones who originally respected the source material, okay? Don't you think that is a pandering business decision, but a good creative decision? Because
it's a good creative decision to give it back to the people who understood the story.
And I'm not going to say Andy Serkis is going to back out of directing, but if we do remember with The Hobbit, Peter Jackson wasn't supposed to direct those. And then he ended up directing all three.
Right.
So that who's to say that Peter Jackson is not going to end up being a co-writer, as well as a co-director on this thing as time goes on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Who's to say that's not going to be the case?
I don't know. I don't feel a lot of heart in this. I feel corporatism.
Yeah.
That's what
your initial feeling is corporatism.
That's the vibe I'm getting, is corporatism.
This is the initial news, which is going to feel corporatism for sure.
But I would agree with Wyatt. It feels very much like that. And even though it wasn't as bad back in the day, that's what I felt like the Hobbits, they were trying to do with the Hobbit movies. And I don't like them as much as the Lord of the Rings because of that. And so I don't know.
When they say something like the War of the Rohirrim, that makes me more interested because I know Rohan, but it's going to be introducing characters that we haven't seen. It's going to be this.
You're excited about new characters, new story.
In Middle Earth. Yeah.
And I don't think that's what I'm saying. We're going to have to see what War of the Rohirrim does, because in this Hollywood world, they're not taking a lot of chances with original ideas.
If they announced a show or a movie called The Blue Wizard, that would make me excited. That would make me excited because it's like, we don't know who the Blue Wizards are.
Yeah.
Right?
We don't know what they did.
We don't know what they did. We don't know anything about these characters. If they announce something called the Blue Wizard in the Middle Earth world, I'd be excited.
Do you guys do you guys know at all? Because I don't think we haven't read the Silmarillion or a lot of we've watched a lot of YouTube videos, but and this is probably something after this podcast I'm going to deep dive into, Nerd of the Rings, but with the Blue Wizards, do you know if there's a lot of written accounts for them, or?
I don't think there's really any. Just that they came to Middle Earth at the same time. I think one of them went into the East.
Yeah. But okay, so the good thing if they did something like that, and tell me what your thoughts here, is if they gave it to someone like Peter Jackson and Fran Walsh and Philippa Boyens, right? They give it to those people who are very respectful and start from a good foundation. They can create story around Blue Wizards without contradicting the overall story, and can actually lead the movements to make sense with the actual timeline of events and actual characters, right?
So
even if they have to take creative liberty to craft story in there.
A quick thing is, like, during the Second and Third Age, they went into the East to dissuade. They had like a great influence on dissuading the people of the East from following Melkor and Sauron.
Yeah, which that Gandalf was Gandalf, Radagast, Saruman. Those are the other ones, along with the blue wizards that were all sent from Valinor by the king of by the Valyrian king to Middle Earth, and Gandalf was the least. He was the one who didn't want to go the most, and that's why he said you're the perfect fit. But it was literally they were like prophets to Middle Earth to turn the heart away from Melkor.
Yeah, but I think an interesting story would be of the blue wizards in the East trying to either before or after the War of the Ring, dissuade the people from following Sauron, or disrupt, or I don't know. You could get some interesting stuff.
Yeah, I think so too. But going back to the question though, do you think it's a problem if we don't have a ton of source material for them to elaborate and create story for these blue wizards?
No.
You don't
They're
think it's a
gonna
problem?
do it regardless.
Well,
They
we know
did it
not.
on The Hobbit.
Not if-
They've done it on so many things already.
Not if you've got good writers.
And if you're not contradicting
And
the
if you're not
movements of Middle
contradicting-
Earth,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But
Like
do you
you-
think? I don't know.
Rings of
I'm
Power just
skeptical 'cause-
contradicts, right?
Yes,
So
they're going to
that's the
contradict
problem.
because there's not
Mhm.
good writers in Hollywood.
But if you did a story of the blue wizards after the conflict in the movies, then you wouldn't be contradicting anything. You could be creating a sort of whole new kind of idea or story.
So wait, you're talking about the blue wizards after
I'd love
the death of Sauron?
Yeah. I'd like to see like a like
Where
a
were the
story.
blue wizards
They were in
during
the East. They were
the
in
whole
the East.
time?
Yeah. And that'd be a great starting point, because a lot of the men of the East followed Sauron into war,
Mm.
and you could really tell a good story about like them
How they
feeling,
wouldn't listen?
them feeling like they failed.
Interesting. We don't have any. Again, I want to do a deep dive on this now. We don't have any information if they were swayed by Sauron at all, like Saruman was, right?
Mhm.
We
Yeah,
don't know
and
if they
that
were
could
or
be
not.
cool. You could have one that was and one that wasn't.
If there's not already source material about it, that's
Mhm.
important to make sure that there's not, because there's so much written about so many characters. You have to find the holes to be creative and not contradict the story. But yeah, I mean, you're right. Original story's fun, but business wise, it's going to be hard for Hollywood to sell or to approve it, where this is an easy approval. I feel like this is a really good, for business and creatives, giving it to the right people. This is a good place to start to launch some more outside of Lord of the Rings story movies that Warner Brothers has been wanting to do. So as long as this goes well, then we could potentially see more stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
But they do have
Yeah.
to build it around the marketing of something, just for it to sell initially. And Gollum, I feel like, is an easy marketing place to pull people back in, because here's the thing. Even though you have initial corporatist feelings about this, when this comes out, you're gonna watch it, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And a lot more people will as well. That's the whole point why they do this. So, there would be a ton of people that won't. I bet you there's going to be a lot of people that don't watch War of the Rohirrim that would have that will watch a film about Gollum. There
Mhm.
just will be.
Yeah.
So if you can pull in Gollum and then start introducing other characters that they're going to do movies around later in this story, then it opens up the world a bit for marketing in the future. That's my initial feeling. You got to start somewhere, and you got to have a strong point of entry.
Mhm.
And I'm not too mad at it. I know I hear the concern and I hear the worries, but I can't really argue with their thought behind it, right? As far as like saying we're going to drop probably $200 million on this thing, argue with saying you have to have a really strong starting point in order to
Mhm.
justify that. You know what I mean? That's just
Yeah.
kind of how
Yeah.
I feel. And I'm just happy they gave it to Andy Serkis, and it seems like they're giving it to Peter Jackson and these other awesome creators that's done right by the story and done right by Tolkien in the past.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's just, and this is super early news. Like, this is, the concept is in development. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not, we don't even have a script. So who knows what this will end up being. And hopefully it actually does come to pass. But
Yeah.
but it's fun. I think it's a decent place, and I feel like the right people are connected to the project.
It'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
Do you ever get like nervous butterflies whenever you hear stuff like this? I get butterflies. I'm like, we're testing the
Maybe not
grounds.
butterflies, but nervous that,
Mhm.
yeah,
Yeah.
who knows?
I do get a little nervous thinking about this, just because it's like, oh, something that so many people in culture, including myself, care about. I hope they don't screw this up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when I do not want to see a black mark on Andy Serkis or Peter Jackson's record. I just don't want to see it.
Mhm.
And
You don't think
and if you think The Hobbit is a black mark, I would encourage you to go back and watch them again, because you might
watch the
you might
extended cuts.
you can
Definitely
have
watch the
your
extended cuts.
look, you can have your issues with the animation of like the white orc and all of that. That's fine. You can have your problems with how they told the story visually, and maybe you can have their problems with bringing in the necromancer side of the story, but that tracks with the story of Tolkien's writing, so it's not
Mhm.
contradicting it. And I think when you have a rewatch, you'll be like, I was kind of giving this a hard time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because
And
it's really not bad.
if you jump into the movies with this expectation of it being more of a fantasy type story, you know, like less nitty gritty, like Lord of the Rings, and more like a story that Bilbo is telling, that Bilbo is
Right.
writing,
Right.
Yeah.
and not a story that Frodo is writing.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Bilbo wrote this story and is like, man, these
are my adventures.
This was
Right.
wild, and I'm writing it. It was wild, right?
Yeah.
Whereas Frodo's writing Lord of the Rings, like,
Super jaded.
this was what happened.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, that's a good point. Like, and he's also jaded because of all of the just emotional turmoil he went through
Mhm.
being the ring bearer. Also, the wound from being stabbed on Weathertop, and he was dealing. Frodo's super jaded going back to the Shire at the end.
Yeah.
Where Frodo was kind of on cloud nine a little bit. You know what I mean? Like,
You talking
he just
Bilbo?
wanted to live. Yeah, Bilbo. He just wanted to live in the past because he was just like, this was the time of my life. So when you
And if you watch like, especially the Battle of the Five Armies, if you watch it in that light, where especially the extended edition, where one of the dwarves is steering, you know, a giant troll that's on like peg legs and has like maces attached to its arms, you could definitely see Bilbo riding. It's like, and one of the dwarves was riding this giant troll, and he had like peg legs, and he fought another troll. Dude, it was wild.
just elaborating a little bit, just I don't know.
Yeah,
Freaking
like
expanding or
exaggerating,
exaggerating
maybe
for
exaggerating.
funsies.
You could
Yeah.
totally see Bilbo exaggerating a little
For the
bit.
heck of the story, to
Yeah.
tell a good story. They hobbits are storytellers, right? And if your story doesn't quite live up to excitement, you're gonna fill in some.
Yeah, to anybody interested, go watch the Hobbit movies and watch them as if Bilbo's
telling this exaggerated tale.
Pretend while
right?
you're watching that Bilbo is telling this and he's exaggerating.
There
right?
and back again.
Then you'll enjoy it.
Right. Freaking, that's a wonderful perspective to have. That's a really good point there, Wyatt. And also, we saw kind of the exaggerated fighting styles in Lord of the Rings as well. I mean, the things Legolas did was ridiculous. What he grabbed a shovel, he grabbed a shield and surfed down a staircase while launching.
Well, it
arrows.
established like, it's like, this is what elves can do, right?
Yeah.
And then if you watch The Hobbit, this is what Bilbo imagined elves were doing.
Also
and dwarves
dwarves
were
too,
doing.
right?
Yeah, like
Um,
they were so incredible in his recollection. You
right,
know,
right.
oh, like
And
Legolas was jumping on all their heads. You know,
yeah,
maybe he hopped across the river and jumped on one of their heads. You know,
yeah. He was using their heads as stepping stones. But but okay, so in at Bilbo's birthday in the Fellowship of the Ring, when he's sitting around telling, Peter Jackson's daughter and the other kids about the story of the
hmm
trolls turning to stone, the excitement and thrill in his
yeah,
voice. Picture
Well,
that
he's
in your
told the
mind
story
when you're
100 times.
yeah. Well,
you
picture
can.
his excitement and thrill of telling the story, but for the entire Hobbit
Yeah,
movies, right?
and it's a
It
much
sounds
more
like a Burt
fun
Kreischer story.
it's a much more fun way to watch the
No, it's a
movies.
Hobbit story, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it like how many times they say war in the
Mhm.
last movie? It's war. It's gonna be war. Just imagine Bilbo saying it, telling the story.
a, a battle of 5 armies.
It's war.
Right. Friggin', that's beautiful.
Do we have a Patreon to thank?
We do.
Or
Let's
a
see.
member? One of those?
So we got Patreon. John Newton has
Oh,
joined us on
Mr. John.
Patreon. He
Wow.
Mr.
gets
Newton.
he gets some pretty cool perks. He gets this podcast 5 days early, man. So he's the first one to watch it. He also gets the pre-show that we put out both on Patreon and YouTube memberships. Obviously, it's the
Yeah.
same either way. So whether you prefer your back end, behind a paid wall content to be on YouTube or on Patreon, whatever you prefer, it's the same thing either way.
We make it available.
We make it available. It's only $3.99, basically $4 a month, and it's super affordable. As we say, you can get it and have your cup of coffee because
Mhm.
it's so cheap. You don't have to sacrifice a cup of coffee for one of your days. You could just have both. All right. I mean, we're living in 2024. Inflation's out of control. So, like, what is $4 a month really worth anymore?
Right.
I mean, it's like a $1 slice of pizza. They say it's $1,
Yeah.
but really it's
No, you go to New York, $1, a slice of pizza is $8, right?
Yeah.
So this is half of a slice of a New York pizza.
McChickens used to be $1.
Right.
That's true, man.
Yeah.
I used to get the McChickens and I was satisfied with life. Now,
Give me 2 McChickens. Yeah.
You know what's wild? A regular size, like medium can of Red Bull is $4.
Insane.
So if you drink like Monster Energy or Red Bull or get your Starbucks on the regular throughout the month, look, I'm not trying to pressure you. I'm just saying we're cheaper than those things, and you do that
Yeah.
almost every day. So just consider supporting us, and you get cool perks, and you're also helping us grow. And just like John Newton has, you get your name in the credits and personalized shout outs on podcasts.
Thank you,
So,
Mr. John Newton.
Thank you, John Newton. You're the best. So I am almost done with Reacher season 2.
Okay.
Why do I
downgrade from season 1?
No,
An upgrade. In same grade.
it's a little bit
didn't get
more
the upgrade or the-
fantastical. It's a little bit more.
A little bit more, yeah.
Did you watch season 2?
I saw a couple episodes of it, yeah.
I do not know why I'm enjoying this show. I do not understand why I'm like, I want to watch Reacher, because when I watch it, I'm literally rolling my eyes constantly at this writing. I am rolling my eyes, but yet I continue hitting next episode. Friggin' why? I do not understand. I think maybe there's just this formatted storytelling that's like super jacked dude can just break someone's leg in half with one arm slam. You know what I mean? And he gets the beautiful woman,
Fun.
a different woman each season. and there's like backstory, and he's like a little jaded from his past, and he's just badass. I don't know what it is about Reacher, and I don't know why I'm enjoying it, but freaking here I am enjoying this show that's horribly written.
It's just, I think it's just pretty basic storytelling, and that's
Yeah.
probably what you're identifying with. Is like, it follows the format, it tells the story, and sometimes that's really all you need to keep people.
Sometimes you
People
just
watching.
just need a stupidly simple story
I mean,
and just do
fun.
some cool fight scenes
Yeah,
and get a real life Hulk in the film.
get a real life Hulk. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, that guy's Jack. I actually, so literally in season 2, at the beginning of the season, it was like 3 or 4 episodes deep before we saw him shirtless. So he came back in season 2 looking bigger than season 1. All right. So I was like, I wonder if he has a little bit more of like a healthy layer. So that's why he's keeping, like, he looks a lot thicker and bigger in season 2.
Yeah.
So I was like, I wonder if he's like got a little bit of healthy layer. He's not as cut. So that's why they're keeping clothes on more this season. Literally the next scene after I said that out loud to Kenzie, he's shirtless and he is so cut and so much bigger than season 1. And they did this thing where he got a knife slice right on top of one of his ab muscles, like right there. So he's mending a singular ab muscle.
And it's bigger than your hand.
The ab muscle is like this big, dude. Freaking, I don't understand this.
You guys know the original like Hulk TV show where they had David Banner turn into Lou Ferrigno Hulk. They could have a show where I am Bruce Banner and I turn into Alan Richardson.
Yeah,
and they'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. That little dude turning into that big dude.
That's a Hulk transformation.
That's a Hulk transformation.
Friggin', I don't understand it, dudes, but I gotta just say, watch Reacher. You're gonna find yourself rolling your eyes and hitting next episode. It's just gonna happen.
You're rolling your eyes as you say, well, if I have to watch another episode. Well,
here's the thing. I had to try it because everyone's talking about, oh, Reacher's so good. I'm having such a fun time with Reacher. So I started season 1 and I'm like, are people really having a fun time with Reacher? I mean, it's just dialogue's terrible. You know what I mean? And then here I am. I'm about to finish season 2 and I don't know what to say. They got me. They got me with simplicity.
They got you.
They just need to have a relatively pretty woman and a big jack dude beating up other dudes. I guess that's all you need.
That's really all you need.
And the thing is, like, the way they solve problems, like they're making it kind of mystery-ish to where like they have to decode clues and like go around and try to find clues to get to the end result, right?
Yeah.
The way it's such bad writing. The way they are figuring out clues is so dumb. Like there's no, like, it's the most simple, stupid thing to where like Reacher just hears like the diner woman say a word and he's like, that's the key. I hadn't thought about it like that before. And now I figured out this clue. It's so freaking stupid, man. But I love it at the same time. So watch Reacher, ladies and gentlemen. Joshua, are you going to watch Reacher?
Maybe.
Yeah, I've thought about starting from the beginning and giving it a shot.
Maybe.
Season 1 was fun. It's kind of like in a small town in Georgia, you know?
People have been telling me I need to watch all these shows, Reacher, Fallout.
You don't have to watch Fallout.
I started The Boys. I was watching The Boys for a minute.
Okay.
And I didn't finish it.
Too much?
No, it wasn't too much. I just somehow, slowly stopped.
You know what? This is a little off topic. I'm sorry, but every time I say the word too much, it's ruined for me because remember we did a deep dive into Scooby-Doo on one podcast. And the original name for Scooby-Doo when they were concepting it out was going to be the dog was named Too Much. And we started giggling about it. Now it's in my head. Every time I say the word too much, I think, oh, that's the original name for Scooby-Doo.
Too much.
That's a good name for a dog. It's a good name.
That is a good name. What do you think? You think it would have gotten as much attention if they kept the name Too Much? Maybe not.
It's not as good.
It's not as good, but
the same concept is there. The guy who pitched Scooby-Doo. Okay, hear me out. I'm hearing a guy and his dog who are potheads that solve mysteries.
Yeah.
Me.
Heck yeah. And they have three friends who do a lot of the work mystery wise, and the potheads accidentally help with the mystery. Right?
Yeah, and they're the comic relief.
I
of it,
always-
that they ultimately solved the problem.
I always just assumed that it was it was like Fred's idea. Fred had the van, or the van is Shaggy's, right? But
Mhm.
Fred was like, "Hey, why don't we, hunt ghosts?" And like he was talking about it with his friend Shaggy and his girlfriend Daphne, right? And Daphne was like, "Well, my friend Velma is like really good, really smart.
She's
so
really smart.
she can help us with this kind of stuff." And
Yeah.
Fred was like, "And my buddy Shaggy has a van."
He's got a cool dog that can hang out with us.
Yeah, and yeah, that's the other thing. He's got a dog that can sniff out ghosts, and he's got a van. That's how I always assumed it just came together.
He's got a van.
They've tried to do origin story stuff, and it's always not been great. I think the original live action was like the van was Velma's or something.
Mhm.
I could be wrong about that, but
No, it was Shaggy's. The live action one.
in the original.
Because remember when the group split up in the live action?
Yes, no,
Shaggy and
yes, the
Scooby-Doo had
live
a van.
action you're thinking of, but a
Okay.
couple years later after that, they made a live action that was a prequel to those two movies.
Mhm.
That the van was not Shaggy's originally. They like painted it up and made it the Mystery Machine.
See, I think it's funny to imagine. It's like, yeah, I got my buddy Shaggy, has this stinky van that kind of stunk all the time, and we can ride around in that. It was all called the Mystery Machine.
Yeah,
It's already named.
Because Shaggy was in there solving the mysteries of the universe.
I
that's
gotta get back on Scooby Doo, guys.
it's fun. It's fun.
Um,
Everything
So-
now lately though has been terrible for Scooby Doo.
friggin'. So let's dive into a little bit of Netflix, okay?
Okay,
If you don't mind.
We'll try.
Do you guys mind?
Maybe.
go
right.
ahead.
All right. So Netflix is signing Tyler Perry and this other fella. I don't know his name. Devon Franklin to do some Christian films on Netflix. They signed a contract to do a handful of Christian films. All right. And so this is, Tyler Perry's big in Atlanta and he's
Wait,
big in
scroll up.
Hollywood. Mm-hmm.
Faith-based films, not Christian.
Faith-based films, right? So this is it's movies inspired by or around the idea of faith. The first film is going to be, let's see, there was a synopsis somewhere in here. Okay, so the first project under the deal will be a film called R&B, a modern day retelling of the story of Ruth and Boaz, one of the Bible's iconic love stories, but it's set in Tennessee. All right. R&B tells the story of a young woman who escapes the Atlanta music scene to care for an elderly widowed woman, and in the process finds the love of her life and gains the mother she never had. All right. So it's
like a bad
It's a wild idea.
I kind of like it.
Okay,
I
look,
kind of like it.
if they weren't like the title's hilarious, R&B,
So obviously they're going to be black actors, right? This is going to be a
Right.
black film.
but if they didn't tell me that this is based on Ruth and Boaz and they just gave me this synopsis, I'd be like, yo, this sounds kind of like it could be a Hallmark movie or a or like a what's the lady who writes the books?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know.
You know what I'm talking
her name.
about?
Yes,
like
I know who you're talking about.
like the
Yeah, I think Hallmark has made some of her books.
yeah.
Right.
There was the one with Julia and what's her name?
Bro,
she
you're
is-
talking
she
to the
is-
wrong crowd.
what's the
If your mom was here, she'd know probably.
I know who you're talking about. They did The Notebook.
Yeah.
It's The Notebook.
We're sitting here trying to figure it out. We're not gonna figure it out.
Yeah.
We can look it up.
We'll think about it.
Yes, we can.
Let's see who wrote it.
I could be wrong about this. Nicholas Sparks or something like that.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the other one, but yeah, that's the kind of thing it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah.
What an interesting idea.
Okay, so in addition to this article talks about who's going to be this Netflix studio executive over, because remember we talked about how there's going to be new genres in Netflix, right? They're not doing it based on subscriptions or budget amounts anymore. They're trying to create more lower budget indie films to make as many films as possible to reach as many different types of audiences, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tyler Perry's a natural kind of like, if you want a really big Hollywood person who's into faith films and also comedy, but really is branded around a billionaire who's a Christian filmmaker, sort of.
And we get in on this market where, like, you know, we're creating. We're going to be creating films specifically for white people and like the struggles that white people have gone through
for the community.
But so with that, it's really talking about who the new person is, you know, who got the deal with Tyler Perry. And it's actually this woman who is the new studio executive for the genre of what is it? Young adult, faith-based, and whatever. I can't remember her name.
We talked about this, right?
We talked about
the different people who are different heads of
department.
The genres of Netflix.
I got it right here. So under the new structure, Ori Mamer will oversee action, fantasy, horror, sci-fi tales, while Kiera Goldberg will handle thrillers, dramas, family films.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why family films and thrillers are in the same one, but okay. Nija Kukendal, which is this woman, Kukendal or whatever.
Yeah, that's I don't know how to pronounce that.
Well, I think it is Nija. Will oversee faith-based young adult and holiday offerings, while Jason Young will handle comedies and rom-coms.
My boy Jason.
we are.
So we're seeing some moves from this is Nija.
Nija already. She's signing a big deal with
Tyler Perry
some for some faith-based films.
That was weird. We're seeing some moves from Nija. It's good, and
this is new. Like this is like within the past month. We
talked about this, seeing what these different genre heads are going to be doing, and we're already seeing a move from her. Now we're waiting to see some moves from some of these other folks.
Exactly.
She's already got Tyler Perry. See, this is stuff I get excited about. I like to see the competition. She got Tyler Perry, right? Who's Jason gonna get? Right?
Right.
I want to see. It's like, okay, so we're getting comedies, right? Who's Jason?
Will Ferrell. He's gonna pull in Will Ferrell. Right?
Is he pulling in?
Ooh, maybe.
You know, that's.
I mean,
fun
Adam
to
Sandler is technically comedy, so
maybe I wonder if Adam Sandler's if his contact is still current.
Well, I'd love if Jason got somebody funny.
Yeah, I think it will. I think he might pull out somebody funny.
Maybe Keegan-Michael Key, if we want to.
Yeah, if you want to go with like the most safe option, sure.
Yeah.
So I wanted to. All right. So I was doing some research on Nija. All right.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to see if she's like a Christian or if she's someone of another faith or what. And all I can find is a video that she did. It's like 3 minutes long. I don't have it for us, but it's like this weird old, it was like 7 years ago. She used to be a executive at Warner Brothers, and then Netflix scooped her up. So she's been at Warner Brothers for a while. And this kind of disappointed me a little bit. I can't say I didn't expect it, but it kind of disappointed. I wanted to get to know who Nija was if she's going to oversee faith-based at Netflix. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot find anything about her faith. I can't find her saying anything. But what I can find is her talking about how she's had to overcome oppression in the Hollywood industry and all that kind of stuff.
Ah,
So that was really disappointing because it's like, okay, so and she also made a point in a video to say like, I'm a storyteller. I tell, exciting stories about fantasy worlds and different stuff. So I'm like, that's interesting. The way she describes the stories she tells doesn't align with the new genres that she's going to be overseeing at Netflix. When her opinion of herself, like 7 years ago when she was at Warner Brothers and did this little video. So
this is fun.
What?
This is fun. This is fun to me. It's like these are the coaches and who are their players, right?
Exactly.
And getting to know the coaches, what you're doing. Who's gonna win? Who's gonna win the battle of the genres in Netflix?
This is I don't know. I would like to continue feeling out who different deals that these genre heads at Netflix kind of what direction they start pulling the company in, especially since there's this new big move and focus from Netflix. But I will say my upfront perception, and it's not to say that I don't know how micromanaging she is. I don't know if she's going to give Tyler Perry a lot of control so he can make a Tyler Perry film, or is this going to be a Tyler Perry makes a Nyjah film? You know what I mean?
Or is this a Netflix film made by Tyler Perry?
Right. And so I will say her being the executive head for the genre of faith-based.
I don't think she's a producer.
No, it's not. She's not going to be producing.
As long as she's just selecting the directors and producers, then
but she's a studio head.
Right. Yeah,
she's a studio head. They have pull. If they say they don't want something, you have to say yes. So she's like she doesn't have title of producer or executive producer, but she has authority of what Netflix makes public. And
it does sound like she is an executive producer though a little bit.
Well, executive producer needs to be someone who either gives money to a project or gives of their time for a discounted rate or for free. So like executive producer is the one that helps financially float the project. All right. That's what executive producer.
What I would like to see from this whole thing is more accountability on the part of these people, because for a long time, we're just sort of like, the movie is coming from the director or the producers, right? Nobody really thinks about these people who are selecting these directors and
selecting projects. Right?
I want to see more news about what these people are doing. So these 4 or 5 people that we have on here, I want to be following them.
4.
I want to be following them much more closely. That way we can watch their decisions and judge their decisions.
Right. And it will be a little bit smoke and mirrors, I feel like, as far as what decisions they made and what decisions the creators made. But at least we know who's at the top of this authority list.
I think we'll be able to track it. I think through the young adult faith-based movies, we may see themes. And if we see themes, then we know that she's inserting certain things in certain places,
right?
And
we'll see her thumbprint, right? Yeah. That's so. I'm a little concerned about Nyjah getting to know her very, very mildly on the internet because there's not a ton there. But even just hearing what she had to say about herself from 7 years ago, it wasn't bad. Like she doesn't come across as like definitely not a bad person. Just kind of a part of the woke ideology
system,
which I don't think lends well to faith-based stuff.
It's an interesting call, Cotton. We'll see how it pans out.
Right. But that I just wanted to bring that in. So let's keep an eye on this R&B film that's going to be coming out. Who knows how long? But Tyler Perry's got himself a.
Or they were feeling the way they were feeling after they came up with that title. They're like, what's a good title for a Ruth and Boaz? Ruth and Boaz was like
R&B,
like
music,
but like Black community Ruth and Boaz. And somebody is like, we can use their initials like R&B, and they were just like, R&B. We're geniuses.
Yeah. And they're like, all right, some music, black music. And then they're like, okay, hold on.
R&B.
Atlanta and Tennessee.
Dude.
Right? Atlanta and
yeah.
Nashville.
Dude,
Way to
what
go.
if Boaz is white,
And country.
like country music?
Bro, that's
Ooh.
kind of cool.
Dude, and she comes from
Mix it up a little.
Atlanta R&B music.
Ooh. What if they do a
Okay.
mashup? Kind of like A Star is Born?
What
They
if it's
start
kind of
singing
like
together?
A Star is Born?
There's a
Ooh, I'm
grandmother
actually feeling
element in this as well.
actually a
Who
little
plays,
bit.
who in Ruth and Boaz, who Naomi. Naomi's the
Mhm.
grandmother or the aunt, right?
Mother-in-law.
Mother-in-law. Okay, yeah. Yeah, to discover the mother she never had, right? That's it. There's going to be a Naomi
Bro, we're
character
already
in
already
Nashville.
making a
Yeah.
probably better story than this is going to be.
Somehow I feel like you got to throw Dolly Parton in there somewhere.
Probably.
Yeah.
Dolly's got to show up, bro.
She's going to show up.
So that's pretty fun. We'll
Boaz's
keep an
mom.
eye on Nija as well as Jason Young and Kiara and Ori.
I'm
Ori.
really looking for what Jason's move is.
Comedies and rom-coms, bro.
Dude, give me some news about Jason.
We'll keep an eye on Jason Young, bro. So that's pretty much it. Let's keep an eye on those folks. I did also want to jump into a little bit. I hope you guys enjoy this next conversation. But I wanted to just say we are diving into some tech, futuristic world around filmmaking.
Okay.
This kind of upends the industry. All right.
Okay.
And we do every
Depends
week.
how good it does. Oh, look, I feel like in the world of AI, we're upending so much. This is an element I had not thought of before until I saw this news, and I'm
Potassium. Bet you weren't thinking of that one.
no, I sure wasn't. So this actually upends the industry in a brand new way that really throws things off, and I have no idea how this is going to manifest itself in the future. So I thought I would present you with the news, all right?
Okay.
I would present you with the specifics, and then we can discuss. Are okay? All right?
Okay.
Are okay.
Gotcha.
All right. AI versus cameras.
Okay.
These are generated through Meta, so we talked about Meta.
These are generated through AI.
Just
AI's
wanted
already
to
got a leg up.
look. I love throwing together some of these things. So I just want to continue adding AI to our
What did
podcast
I say?
because cool
It's
as
so
frick.
fun to make concept.
It's
It's
so
so
fun.
easy to create visual concept stuff.
It's so cool. So the future of filmmaking. This is a simple thing. I think I've discussed on one video or a podcast or somewhere recently, where Adobe Premiere is making a lot of moves in the AI world with AI generating video, fixing issues, tracking, and it's all done through the power of AI. Well, there's this new software that's kind of around. Adobe is actually creating a contract with. So let me share this. So Adobe introduces Video Giga GAN, upscaling video resolution 8x8 with zero quality lost. So the basic concept around this, I did read this whole article. I'm not going to take time trying to explain it. The basic idea, okay, is you can film something as low as you want, 1080, 720, and you could use AI to analyze your film, create more pixels, and it'll upscale that image 8 times in quality what you filmed it at.
Dang.
The reason why this is going to upend the industry is because all these camera companies like Sony, Blackmagic, Arri, all of these industry standard cameras are really selling based on you can shoot 8K, you could shoot 4K at 300 frames per second. You know what I mean? All of a sudden, now there's this literal AI software that Adobe is going to be adding to software, probably Premiere Pro later this year or next year, that is going to be able to upscale your video in quality. Like you're creating millions of extra pixels that don't exist. all right,
Man.
using AI and making your video. You could shoot something in 1080p
Wait a minute.
and change it to 12K, right?
I feel like I watched a movie about that they already had this. Like there was a security camera and they were like enhance,
Yeah.
and
But
and they already
look,
had it in this movie. I was watching.
But
well, Abigail,
that could become a reality
In
where you
actual
can
film.
No, it
actually
is.
and you can actually enhance an image and AI will fill in the pixels.
Yes. So Abby in NCIS was doing the enhance button.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it's always funny, you know, back in the early 2000s when that show was on, they would just enhance everything. And I'd be like, this technology doesn't exist.
Right.
You
Um,
can't enhance. You can't
I think
create pixels. Now
so you're-
AI can apparently create
you're saying
pixels.
1080p to 12K. I know that's an exaggeration.
It's an
When
exaggeration.
I definitely feel like it's gonna be more like you're filming something in 1080 but you're up-resing it to
4K.
4K or
like
something.
a little bit higher,
No.
Yeah.
right? Like a step higher.
No, we're talking about, it just depends on the computing power of your computer.
No,
probably.
what I'm talking about is like in practice.
Mhm.
In practice, somebody is going to film in a lower quality and then export in a higher quality.
In
Yeah.
editing, you're going to create a higher quality image from a lower quality.
But I don't think anybody's going to be like, I'm filming in 180p and
180p.
and
Okay.
I'm
Yeah.
and in editing I'm going to 4K. I don't think anybody's going to be doing that. I think it's going to be small
You're
steps.
freaking. That's
Hold
crazy,
on.
bro.
Listen to
okay,
me.
Go
Hold
ahead.
on.
Go ahead.
In practice, right? In practice, it'll be like, okay, I know I can get some decent quality if I
Yeah.
film like this, and then I can make it better quality in the editing. It's just going to up-res it a bit, and it's going to be much better looking. But I don't have to film. I can film it, and it's not going to take up as much storage. I don't think anybody's going from super low to super high just for the heck of it.
Okay, so hear me out.
Okay.
When it comes to video quality, all right, there is not, especially for online video, when it comes to the human eye, there's not a whole lot of reason to go higher than 4K, all
Mhm.
right? Because you can't tell a difference with the human eye between 4K and 8K or 4K and 12K. The pixels are too small for you to see it. In theaters, that's probably different, but on obviously anything online or on your TV, you can't tell the difference. So there's not a whole lot of reason to go past 4K just cuz, all right? Because it just creates a larger file size and you need more equipment to be able to process that amount of information and all that. However, cameras, the industry, even though Hollywood is a big part of the industry money spender, it pales in comparison to the consumer market, all right?
Mhm.
The consumer market of wedding videographers, commercial videographers, all of the point and shoot people as hobbyists, they are the ones buying the Sony FX6s. They are the ones buying the Sony FX3s. They're the ones that would buy the new Cine camera that Blackmagic just came out that can shoot 12K video, all right?
Yes.
They are the ones that buy that. If you're shooting a wedding and you want to say, I can either spend $3,000 and get this new Sony camera that can shoot 4K and slow motion, so I want to get to 120 frames per second, or I can just use my Canon that can shoot 120 frames per second at 1080p. I don't have to spend the extra $3,000. I can just upscale it to 4K for this wedding highlight video and use the camera I currently have, or buy a cheaper camera than this one. All of a sudden, Sony's not making that consumer market money, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is going to upend the industry, because the camera innovation is built around these selling points that was not expecting something like this necessarily, okay? This is a big freaking deal.
It is, and I think the only hurdle they're really going to have to get over is AI figuring out how many pixels to put into something, right? And how, like when you're filming somebody and they're walking past and they have a birthmark or freckles, right? if you're adding pixels, does the AI know that those need to stay the same size, or are they going to be like getting bigger and smaller as the person's walking past?
This is my initial
That's a
thought
lot.
is
Yeah.
because I don't think AI is not creating images. Well, they're creating pixels, but they're not like starting from scratch. So yes, it probably, if you shot something in, it probably would be funky if you went from like Super 8 quality
Yeah.
that's been digitized, that's really freaking tiny and the pixels are huge, and upscale it to something like 1080 or 4K. It probably would get funky. But 10K is 1080p is so readily available, and it's such high quality enough that I don't think upscaling anything off 1080 is going to make a funky image.
See, I think the pictures themselves, pictures are going to be great. Pictures are going to be incredible. But
well, they already are incredible.
It's the moving. I'm talking about being able to upscale it, right?
Yeah.
But it's the moving people. Are like, is the AI going to be able to figure out that dude's mustache doesn't need to go down this far, or where am I adding pixels as a person is moving around, right? If I'm trying
especially
to
if it's like shaky cam or
right,
something.
and so I think for maybe a little bit we're going to get some of that uncanny valley stuff where we can see that it doesn't
quite work like a deep fake.
Yeah,
like deep fake was a couple years ago.
But eventually it is going to be probably pretty perfect.
You're right. So like there are certain tools that are currently, so like warp stabilizer. If you have too much shake and you try to do a warp stabilizer in your Adobe Premiere Pro, weird. It's funky. And so you have to be delicate with how you use that tool. So maybe this tool might be delicate at first. But the thing is, all it's doing is taking, all right, this frame, let's add 5 billion pixels. I don't know how many.
Right.
How many exactly. Let's add my bad. Let's add a crap ton of pixels. All right.
What was that? I didn't quite get it.
And we're just gonna build the pixels around what's already there. So instead of saying 10 pixels here, we're actually adding 50 in this little
and
area.
I also think it could work really well for slow motion.
So it's doing this specifically for video, not just photos, correct?
Video. The photos is actually a lot easier to do. I
think they've been doing this kind of with photos for a minute.
I think like here, this sort of exists for photos already.
Yeah, where if you don't get it in focus, it's like blurry, then you can make something become more in focus. That makes sense.
Sort of, yeah. But this is for video. I mean, this is and this is not like AI generated video. And that's already interesting in itself with Sora and whatnot. But this is actually taking something you shot in a camera and upscaling it to a size that you want. And it's going to just completely cut the legs off of this camera industry stuff. What's selling the new cameras, because all of a sudden you don't need the 12K camera at all.
Your iPhone camera. You can use your iPhone camera.
Well, yeah, but the iPhone camera, so there are other issues that AI will have to solve. So depth of field is still funky. The color science in iPhones are very funky. Any phone is very funky. So color science is way off. And as well as they're working on controllability, but it's still there's a long way for iPhones to look as good as cameras do. So I don't think that that's going to be what upends the industry necessarily. It's really going to be little stuff like this that all of a sudden is like, hey, we sell cameras based on the quality, like innovative quality. Now AI is taking over that market artificially.
What happens when this AI gets integrated into your phone and the videos that you take are being upscaled as you film them?
Our phones already shoot 4K.
Right.
So we don't have to upscale. It doesn't really make sense to upscale.
It's fixing any of the issues or focus things that are happening in real time.
Maybe. So like the weird halo outline for the fake depth of field, AI could probably improve that, as well as maybe AI or just better software needs to fix the color science. Because as soon as you take studio lighting, like if I were to, right now I'm shooting on a Canon, right?
Yeah.
it looks good with the camera settings. Nothing looks funky. It doesn't look wrong. But if I were to put my phone up there, all of a sudden my skin tones are all off. I look really flat and weird. It doesn't look good because the color science and lighting science of exposing in a camera is funky.
Yeah.
And in a phone is funky. And so that, I think the color and lighting science is something that needs to be improved in phones before you make a big leap. But yeah, this is just what I'm saying. Yeah, phones are a disruptor. Phones are a disruptor to the camera industry. This is catastrophic for the camera industry. That's what this is how I feel.
I feel like it depends on how you think about it, like professional versus non-professional, like just your everyday person. But yes, it definitely is going to be disruptive to technology in general.
Yeah, and this is the fact that Adobe, this is going to be a plugin for Premiere Pro, which is kind of the standard right now for video editors, is there are so many elements that AI is disrupting. There's so many. But the fact that this is going to be so readily available, this isn't something that's going to be like super expensive or whatnot. This isn't going to be gatekept. This is going to be readily available inside of Premiere Pro. It's going to disrupt the industry in a big way. Because like I said, the consumer market's going to have this at their fingertips because most of the consumer market uses Adobe.
What do we know when this drops?
This article, I think, said... Let me see if there's something here. It talks about the specs a lot. Maybe it's at the bottom. Limitations.
What did we get for limitations?
I'll go back up to it in a second. I'm gonna see if I can figure out when this drops. I don't think there was an official announcement for when it's dropping. I think the assumption was that it's going to be probably next year.
Gotcha.
So it still have some time on it.
So the question is, could I use this software if I bring in like a blurry photo from the internet? Can it fix that photo by adding pixels?
Yeah, probably. I mean, a photo, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So the model encounters challenges when processing extremely long videos. Yeah. So 120 frames or more. Or 200 frames or more. So it is still relatively in beta and they have to figure this out. That's probably why it's not coming out anytime soon. But because it has to process frame by frame to add more pixels. Right?
The model does not perform well in handling small objects such as text and characters, as the information pertaining to these objects is significantly lost in the LR video input. So little, small things that it's having to try to expand or move or
add
anything, add quality to, it's going to have trouble. So it's going to overdo it. And so you're going to get things that move and don't look right.
This is these are what the initial tests are. So they're currently working on these issues.
This is the first step in, hiking that mountain.
It won't take long.
It's not going to take
long. No. You take one step and then you realize you're a mile in.
And I could definitely see how this is a problem, right? Extremely long video, because 200 frames or more is not a lot. Like 200 frames, let's see, there's 30 frames a second. On average, say you shoot 24 to 30 frames per second. We're talking about a shot that's a few seconds long, okay?
Yeah.
And if you have more than a few seconds long, it's currently having issues processing because it's a lot of frames to create artificial pixels in,
Yeah.
So that makes sense. Like, I don't think there's going to be people that, going back to wedding videos, that shoot an entire ceremony in 10K. That's like 30 minutes long or 40 minutes long, and then try to upscale that to 4K. That might not be as readily common.
We're going from 10K to 4K? The math ain't correct here.
I meant to say 1080 to 4K. So there's not going to be as much you see there, but just like B-roll for YouTube videos or like in a highlight wedding video that shots are only up there for a few seconds, all of a sudden you're going to start seeing it all over the place.
Yeah.
So And the interesting thing about slow motion, it adds tons of frames, right? So like 200 frames per second or 120 frames per second.
Mhm.
But the fact that I would imagine it also probably causes a problem for blurry footage. So if you're shooting 24 frames and you move the camera fast, it
Yeah.
creates the image blurry, right? Like handheld stuff. But if you're shooting 120 frames, it's getting so much more information. So that movement blur is not as much there, right? So
Do you think
it'll
kind of with
have
what you're
it'll be
saying,
easier for it to make more, build on it.
kind of with what you're saying, you know, getting rid of information or giving information, particularly with slow motion, do you think it will fix if you shoot something in? This is getting very nerdy. Some people might not understand this. Like 40 frames per second. Can you upscale your footage to 120 frames per second, not creating anything different, not upscaling it to like 1080 to
Oh,
4K,
yeah,
just
yeah.
frames per second so you can slow it down and make it not look choppy? Are you going to be able to do that?
I think I haven't seen news about that, but I'm pretty sure they're going to be able to do that too.
Oh, they
because
have to.
because well, not YouTube. Adobe announced a video extender. So
Yeah.
what that means is if your shot ends here, but you need it to go to here on your timeline, and you don't want it to make it slow motion or whatever, so you just have a lack of footage there, you
Yeah.
can extend your video, and it artificially does a very simple option of what the shot would continue doing in video extender, right?
So
Man, I really wish I
when do
owned
So
these
if
a
it can add
portion of
video
Adobe.
extension, then of course it can add extra frames between existing frames. You know what I
so
mean?
when do when do all the AIs in Adobe start communicating with each other? Like it knows like there's a frame here that's a blur, so it doesn't need to add pixels.
Yeah.
And so this AI tells the other AI you don't need to add pixels here. And then you get to the next frame that needs pixels because it's a little bit blurry, so it adds them there.
No,
And
I would think
now the editing software and the AI software are communicating with each other.
It's possible.
And then you get the image generation software being like, I need something here. And so it
Yeah.
generates it there for you.
Yeah, yeah, and that's coming. Adobe already announced that the generating video. We already have generating in Photoshop, which we use all the time, right? But they're doing that for video, which they can generate a few seconds. So, like, if you have a simple close-up shot of someone doing like a reaction, like, you know what I mean, to end your shot, or someone
Mhm.
looking concerned, and you're going to cut to the next scene. If that shot is just a little too short and you want it a little bit longer, the AI can add generation of a continuation of that shot. So
What about if you get a shot, if you get a shot and you for some reason like part of the person's face is cut off,
Yeah.
right? But it's the best shot you have, can you tell the AI to cut off this side so we don't need it and then add the other half of that person's face? That's a lot. That's a lot,
Here's the thing.
especially
Here's
for
the
a
thing.
video, but I think it's coming.
I think it can do that, but as of right now, like you could do that in Photoshop right now.
Yeah.
What it does is it never makes you look the same. Like
Right.
it just comes up with an option for you, and
Yeah.
it never really looks like you. So I don't think it's going to be able to accurately predict the half of someone else's face.
Yeah.
It'll give you an option, but then you're not going to look like the same
Yeah.
person.
I think you'll have to put in like another picture of that person and be like,
Right.
this is the framework. This is what the other half of their face looks like. Please add it to the video.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think there's a lot of wild tools that Adobe is delving into.
Yeah.
And that other third-party companies are getting contracts with Adobe too.
And the best way to figure out these technologies really is to just integrate them in and see how people use them.
Exactly. We're in a big testing ground in the filmmaking and video space, and the best way to do that is put the AI where people already use it.
And
where
then
people already
they'll
work
figure
from.
it out. They'll start to be like, all right, well, I don't need this portion of the AI, but I really like that it removes the background for me.
Right.
I really like
exactly.
that it can add a little bit more sky and ocean, to this picture.
I really like that I can remove stuff from walls that I don't want to be there in the background, and it does it automatically.
Yeah.
And it does it very simply, it seems like, from the demonstrations. It does it very quickly. So it's going to be pretty nuts what's coming down the line. But this is just another example of how it's going to completely, AI is like saying we're in control of image quality now. So now the cameras have to figure out something new, how to market their new and improved cameras that's not based around image quality, because AI is doing it artificially. And it's going to be so good that you don't need to spend $3,000 to get 6K footage. You could just use your $500 camera and get 6K footage. You know
It's
what
going
I
to
mean?
be, I think the future is going to be, how does your camera work with AI?
Yeah,
That's what they'll
like
have
maybe
to start marketing with, is like how
pairing it, right?
how does it pair with AI?
It's like a
How
good,
does it,
cheese with some wine. I mean,
yeah, exactly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's a good metaphor. Like, that's going to be the future, is like, how does your camera work with AI?
Exactly. And with that, we hold our breaths.
Mm-hmm.
Please go down into the comments.
No, what I was asking was that our last segment? Don't we have one more?
No, that's it.
We still got 15 minutes. We could.
Yeah, you want to plug out? I think we're done, man. Unless you guys have. Oh, look, I would love to go watch. I know it's already been out for a week when people watch this, but I would love to watch Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes this weekend. I just have not carved out the time, so I'm gonna see if maybe tomorrow
You're gonna carve some of that turkey.
I'm gonna see if I can carve out some time. If not, I don't know. Oh, I'm gonna see you guys next weekend, maybe.
Well,
Not
you'll see
me.
me. Wyatt will not be in town.
What?
I told you
Wyatt.
this. I keep
Oh,
telling
yeah.
people this.
You're
I keep
going.
telling people, and they're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like,
You're
"I've
always
told you."
home.
Yeah, I've told you this. I told you I'm leaving.
Okay, fine. Freaking fine. I'll see you in July or August.
Yeah.
Whenever we get our butts over there. But yeah, I'll be seeing Joshua next weekend. We'll be visiting the homeland. And
sure.
yeah, getting ready for our big move. So I'm excited to come visit Georgia.
You and Max Keebler.
What?
I said you and Max Keebler. You
Who's
remember Max Keebler's big move?
No, I never watched it.
No.
Okay.
Wait, Max Keebler. Yeah, I remember.
You remember it?
I never watched the movie.
There's
I
always
watched
like
the
commercials for it on other Disney things that
Yeah.
you watch. Max Keebler's big move.
I remember the commercials a ton for Max
Mhm.
Keebler, but I never watched the movies.
I don't.
He had the
I don't
spiky
recall.
hair.
Mm-hmm.
Max Keebler had the early 2000s.
I thought that was a
spiky
pretty
hair.
deep cut reference right there.
It took me back, bro. Didn't the commercial? Wasn't there just like people repeating his name? Max Keebler.
Max Keebler.
Max Keebler. Max
Keebler.
Keebler.
That's the whole marketing thing. It's
Dude,
like his name is gonna be Max Keebler.
That was the early 2000s, man.
Let me look this up.
dude.
For Max Keebler's big move. was
Max.
wild. I know I watched the movie all the way through, but I don't remember what
Keebler.
happens.
Wait, Max Keebler is a baseball
Is it?
player.
Am I thinking of the?
No. There's also a
I think you got to look up Disney.
Max Keebler.
Max Keebler's big move.
Yes. Yeah, it had Josh Peck in it. I have seen this
Yeah.
movie.
Josh Peck was in it.
Josh Peck was the fat kid in it.
How come I can't find anything about Max Keebler on YouTube?
Because it's all baseball stuff. You just have to look up Max Keebler's big move. Yeah, there's not a lot of information.
Wow.
It's almost like it's been removed.
Let's see. Big.
There's a
move.
conspiracy.
Not. Okay.
The Max Keebler conspiracy.
Wait, no, it has been removed. I'm going to IMDb.
Oh, it's Keeble.
Max
not Keebler.
Keeble.
Yeah.